everyone. Welcome to Move Daily Fitness. Welcome to today's live coaching call. And we're here with counselor Jackie Frasch. This is going to be a wonderful session, learning all about things stress. Of course, sometimes seasonally we can feel more stressed. Christmas is coming, holidays are coming, maybe your in-laws are coming, or maybe there's pressure in terms of your finances. A lot of things can cause stress and stressful situations for us. So today we're going to talk about going from that chaos inside to a place of calm. And Jackie's counseling business is all about that calmness, curiosity, awareness, and living mindfully. And so I think it's so important, even in terms of your fitness and wellness and nutrition, it's a part of that whole package on learning how to optimize health. And that's what we're here to do today. So welcome to everyone. Jackie, welcome to you. Jackie is a certified counselor. She's got a registered professional counseling with the CPCA. And so we've had her on lots and we welcome her again. Of course, you can find Jackie at jackiefraschcounseling.ca and on our website as well. Jackie, what are we talking about today?
Yes, thank you. I just want to make sure that everyone can see this screen that I have up here. So that's kind of just my title screen, but this is what we're going to be talking about today. So going from chaos to calm, does anyone feel like this on the left-hand side at times? Yes.
Yes.
We want more of what's on the right-hand side. So I want to help us practice what will help us get there. So mindfulness techniques are the key today to reduce the stress that's in our lives. So let's get started.
Excellent.
I hope that you will take mindfulness practice techniques that I have today. Take that with you. I hope that you will be able to understand the science behind mindfulness. Why do we need to practice mindfulness? I want to help us understand that. And of course, going from chaos to calm so that we can enhance our overall mental health and well-being. So the first thing we want to do, though, is when we're not calm, is try to figure out what it is. So we need to pay attention to our stress. So stress is the body and mind's response to a perceived imbalance. So right there, just noticing that when I'm stressed out, that means there's an imbalance going on in my body and my mind that my body and mind don't like, that they're not used to, they're not familiar with. So it's between the demands placed on you in your life, circumstances, and your ability to cope with those demands. And it sometimes results in these three things. So if there's anything you take home from today, it's recognize that when you're stressed, you will feel it emotionally, physiologically, and behaviorally. So tap into those three things. I'm going to show you how.
Good.
Any thoughts, Trace?
No, that's exactly what we need. I think is just a little toolkit of strategies on how to manage those things when they arise. But I think you're right. It's just that awareness is the number one first thing to do.
And so we know that stress shows itself through physical and emotional signs. And I want to tap into this for a few minutes because it's very important. Did you know the American Psychological Association has this statistic here? Look at this, 77%. Let's round that up to almost 80% of Americans show physical signs of stress. And we know all of these. We've been through them all before. Increased heart rate, yes. Muscle tension, yes. Gastrointestinal problems, diarrhea or constipation, whatever comes first. But what we aren't as familiar with is the weakened immune system. When we're fighting stress, our body doesn't have a lot of energy to fight elsewhere. So that's when illnesses and infections kind of start. So being aware of that. Sleep disturbances are huge. We know about that. And then appetite. Watch when your appetite is either I don't feel like eating, or I'm just eating everything that I can find. And then another one we might not be aware of are skin problems. So just a very quick story. I experienced a lot of stress this past summer and I didn't know what it was from, but there was so much stress in my body and my breathing and all of these other physical signs and the emotional signs that my stress had nowhere else to go but through my face. And so my face was burning all summer long. It still burns a little bit and it's very itchy. It was so itchy. I wanted to scratch my skin off. And so I was noticing that, saying, hey, I'm having skin problems that I've never had like this before. That gives me a feeling that my stress is too much for me. So let's try to get this under control. And you might be thinking, but you're a counselor. Shouldn't you be stress-free because you have all these tools? Well,
Used to be
stress
perfect.
yeah, stress is an ongoing part of our lives. We're always
Yeah.
going to experience stress. The whole key of stress, though, is how can we manage that? So we want to manage our stress. And I was able to notice it. I noticed all of these symptoms that I had. And then you have to try to put them into practice. And on the other side of this, look at this, 73%. So almost 3/4 of the population show emotional signs. And we know all of these as well. Anxious symptoms, depressive symptoms. I want you to notice that I said you don't have anxiety, you don't have depression, because we need to be diagnosed with that. And a lot of times our stress shows itself in the symptoms of anxiousness and depressiveness. So just even wording it differently can help you gauge your anxious symptoms a lot more. Rather than saying, I have anxiety, I'm experiencing some anxious symptoms. That means you can do something with it. So even right there's a tip. Of course, we become irritable. Mood swings. I'm happy 1 second. The next day, the whole world is, annoying. Cognitive impairment. We don't have a lot of concentration. We can't make good decisions here. We can't solve problems very well when we're stressed out. We may make some rash decisions. So I want to encourage you not to make any, like, sell the house when stress hits, right? We don't want to go that far. We want to be aware of that. And of course, all of these things that I'm telling you about, they cause fatigue. It's so exhausting to live in stress, in that hyperarousal state or the hypoarousal state. Just very exhausting. And of course, all of that will help us withdraw socially from our friends and family, and events and things, activities. And do you really think we're going to have a high self-esteem when all of this is happening? No, of course not. This is one of those things that's just going to be very difficult for us to think that we're doing very well at all. Luckily, look at the bottom here. You already have instilled in you throughout your whole entire life. You have created a lot of healthy coping skills. We've created a lot of coping mechanisms as well, which aren't as healthy, but you have some healthy coping skills on you. Exercise, Tracy, all you ever talk about is how important exercise is. But are we even aware of how much we do need to take relaxation into the scenario here? Like, relaxation isn't sitting on your phone. Relaxation is concentrating on who you are, what you are, why you are, being with yourself, sitting on a park bench, and just doing nothing. So it's being aware of that. We don't have to do it all day long, but there's a reason why we have recess and coffee breaks and lunch breaks, and we need them to recharge our batteries. Of course, therapy, is a very helpful part of reducing symptoms of stress, because you have someone who can hear you and listen to you and give you some new options and new perspectives. Social supports, if you have really good people in your life, is really important. Yeah, what I want to focus on today is a mindfulness practice. So Dr. Dan Siegel is a neuroscience, psychiatry, and psychology professor at UCLA and has founded the Mindsight Institute. And he talks about why mindfulness is important. He talks about this thing called the river of integration. And let's say this river represents a state of dynamic stability where you can adapt to changing circumstances and emotions while maintaining a sense of coherence and connection with yourself and with others. When we're on this river of integration, this is where learning to be flexible is initiated. So this is, as you can see here, is a beautiful river. And imagine this metaphor as our whole life's journey, where we're on a boat or a raft or whatever it might be that will help you navigate this river. You can see that there on either side of this river are two banks. There's a left bank and a right bank. And we can use that metaphor as chaos and rigidity. This is when your experience is less familiar to you, is where you want to jump out of that river of integration and flexibility, and you run towards other external soothers. So for example, chaos. Look at this gross picture of dishes in the sink, like just piled high. I'm sure they're very dirty. It's probably starting to smell. It's really chaotic. It's gross. You don't even know where to start. You're so overwhelmed that it's like, forget it. Let's just go out to eat. It's that kind of impulsive behavior that you experience. It's a state of disorganization emotionally and psychologically because you can't concentrate on this mess. This is where you can become emotionally volatile here. Difficulty regulating your emotions. How can you regulate your emotions when it looks like this? And think about this, if this is your whole home too. Do you ever want to be at home? Home is supposed to be that place of rest and calm and security. And when it looks like this, that's very chaotic, and we would rather not be there. You feel overwhelmed here, unpredictable thoughts and feelings. You might have difficulty maintaining emotional stability because there's so much going on that I can't organize my thoughts. And you might have ineffective communication with others here as well. Of course, some degree of chaos is a normal part of life, and it can be creative and adaptive in certain situations. However, excessive chaos can lead to those mental health issues. So being aware of that. On the other side of the river, though, is a total different state of inflexibility and excessive order in rigidity. In your thinking and your behavior, you're overly controlled here. Like you're that lock and chain. It's just like, I'm not moving. It's my way or the highway. I've done it like this for 45 years. I'm not changing. This is very rigid thinking. You're unable to adapt to changing circumstances. So if you're on that river of integration, how could you navigate the river if you're not willing to go through the twists and turns, right? That's what life is. So we have difficulty changing from our routine here, tolerating change. These things lead to difficulties in problem solving and an inability to connect with others on an emotional level. Now, we know that some level of structure and predictability is absolutely essential for functioning in daily life. But of course, excessive rigidity can hinder personal growth and resilience. So being aware of that this is the river that we want to be on. And yet sometimes when the river gets a little bit difficult or unfamiliar, we don't know what's around that corner. If you see in the far distance, you don't know what's coming up. But if we automatically jump out either to either side of the banks of the river, then we may, experience chaos and rigidity here. Any thoughts about this?
I think it's probably really important just to take some time and think what side of that bank you typically jump onto, right? I think for myself, I'm probably more chaos. Yeah.
And
think
I'm
about
probably more rigid.
Oh, yeah. Think about that for yourself, everyone, just sort of where you would lean toward. What sort of type of behavior would you, I feel like I just kind of go helter skelter and then I don't have order, and that feels really stressful to me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So to go from chaos and rigidity, we want to find balance. We want to be well. We want to live well. So to find balance, you can achieve optimal health and well-being when you're able to navigate the banks of the chaos and rigidity sides of the river. To achieve this balance, practice mindfulness by being open and curious about the situation you find yourself in. Become more aware of your situation so that you can acknowledge where you are at in that moment. Just acknowledging it is so helpful in bringing awareness. When you practice curiosity and awareness, this gives you a chance to live mindfully, and it allows you to regulate your emotional experience. Mindfulness helps you integrate flexibility and adapt to change. This is why we want to practice mindfulness. It helps us to become more open and flexible and mindful of our experiences that we most of the time have no control over a lot of our experiences in life. So we want to tap into that. Dr. Dan Siegel says, emotion is the process of integration that brings self-organization to the mind. So what that looks like for me is emotion is the process to integrate. Once I'm aware of my emotion, that I'm feeling something, remember what I said in the beginning for stress, what am I feeling emotionally? What am I feeling physically? And how am I behaving? So he says here, emotion is the process of integration. Once I am aware of those three things, I can begin to then integrate and change and adapt and try to be flexible in certain situations. And this is what brings organization to the mind.
Yeah, sometimes I will actually just say to myself, like sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll feel a little bit nauseous, or I'll feel that low-lying anxiety or stress. And I'll literally say to myself, what do I feel right now? And then I'm able to pinpoint it. I listened to this podcast recently with Huberman, and the ladies know that I love him. And it was all about that, identifying those feelings, and how some people are like really negative in their identifications of their feelings, and everything that they write, if they're writing down their feelings and emotions or experiences, there'll be a lot of negative words, whereas other people, have a more positive outlook. And it really sort of depicted how they process trauma or stress or anger or grief, depending on how they were feeling. But the main point was, can you identify the feelings and those words? And it's not just, oh, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel good, I feel bad. Like, do you have 12 words for how you feel if you're feeling happy? Do you have 12 words for how you feel if you feel sad? Right? Isn't there like, don't they have charts online where you can, like, there are little emotional charts, and you can actually look at the chart. There's like 100 different emotions or feelings.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great tool online. Just Google emotions or emoticons. You're going to see all those little circle happy faces that we use on our phones now, and to help define what it is you're actually feeling. So what I want to talk about here is how we can go from that stress to mindfulness. Now, I'm wanting to give you some scientific facts around mindfulness. And Lisa Feldman Barrett, I love her. She's a neuroscience and psychology researcher at Northeastern University in Boston. She has talked a lot about our emotions, how they're made, and how to regulate our bodies. She talks about the body budget. I think we've talked about once or twice before, but she talks about cortisol. She says that cortisol is not the stress hormone that everyone says it is. It's actually, cortisol, she says, is a surge of energy that goes to your body to work through the stress that you're already experiencing. So if a saber-toothed tiger comes in front of you, you are going to be stressed out. The cortisol actually surges through your veins to get you to fight or flee.
Right.
So it's quite amazing. It's an instinctual hormone that we have. We have to learn how to control it. And so mindfulness is one aspect of doing that. We all know these as well. When we practice calm and connection, we are lowering, or we're able to regulate our emotions a lot more. Our immune system is going to be supported more here. We're going to be able to manage our chronic pain that we've experienced all our lives in certain elements that we have in our bodies, diseases and such. Positive psychological outcomes, behavior change. You may notice that. I do. I definitely notice. I've decided that I don't want to get mad when I'm driving anymore. And there's a few cues that I have when I am driving that I allow people to say, I just go ahead, go in front of me. That's okay. I remember I was making wedding cakes time in my life, and I had to transport the wedding cake to the venue. And I remember going so slow over a speed bump that the cars behind me were honking, and I'm like, sorry, I'm carrying a wedding cake. And so now every time someone is in front of me who's slow, I always think they could have a wedding cake in the back of their trunk.
Good.
And so see, my behavior is changing with how I view things. I'm giving it a broader perspective. Workplace benefits are huge right now. Mindfulness is a big practice in big companies right now. Yep. And of course, mindfulness.
Quentin teaches mental health first aid, which is unreal. Like most major companies within Canada are now requiring their employment to have at least 2 people who are certified in mental health first aid, not just regular first aid. So I think that's great.
Huge, yeah. And then neuroplasticity. I want to just pause here and talk about this for a few minutes. I'm sure we've all heard of it, and we might have a little idea of what it is, but I'm going to show you a great metaphor here with this picture of the hiking trail here. So neuroplasticity is the brain's amazing ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout our life. So let's take, for example, a really simple scenario here. this very defined, prominent pathway, let's just say is a path that you've used your whole life. Let's say at the age of 5 or 6, you hear someone yelling. Instinctually, your tiny little self runs to your bedroom to hide. That's awesome. What a great coping mechanism for a 5-year-old to do that. And when it happens over and over again, the child's go-to is to run to the bedroom. Well, now that I'm 50, I cannot just hear an angry voice and run to my bedroom. So I often find different ways to cope. But what happened throughout life is that this pathway, I used it every time someone yelled. And look at how strong that pathway is. It's going to take probably 50 to 80 to 100 years before weeds grow over top of that. So it's not going to be easy for this pathway to stop, being strong and defined, but it's up to us to try to find a new way of seeing confrontation or someone yelling or whatever, raising their voice. That tone of voice is always quite painful for me. So I want to if you can see my cursor here, I just wanted to show you an example of neuroplasticity. So this at the top here, Dr. Dan Siegel says, where your attention goes, neural firing flows and neural connection grows, which means where your attention goes, someone's yelling, my attention is going to say, go to my room, run to my room and hide. So this, where my attention goes, the neural firing will flow to that safe place. And then it grows. Look at how strong this path has grown. So what we want to do when we're practicing mindfulness is take a detour and try something new as often as we can. So here, where someone yells, okay, I have an opportunity to run and hide, like maybe go to the bathroom if you work in an office or get out of the building or whatever. But let's try to turn left here. And if you're on a hike, there's no pathway here. You go and say, hey, there's something at the end here. Let's go check it out. So you turn left and there's no path, but your feet have just stepped on the weeds. So you might turn around soon after you get to the bottom and come back up and say, hey, this is where we walked, right? But if you were to go on this path 10, 20, 30, 40 times, those weeds are going to be pressed down. You're not going to be able to, or you will be able to see that path a lot more defined, and over and over and over again. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you go hiking down that trail, the more it's going to become this kind of pathway that you see here, this one that's very defined. And over time, the weeds are going to move away from the side because they don't like getting crunched. So then you're going to have this dirt path. And then that's how pathways are formed. That's where I've put my attention, and neural firing has flown through that way because my footprints, and now there's a new growth coming off of that. Does that make sense for what neuroplasticity is, Trace?
Yeah, that I love that. That is so good. Yeah, so good. I've talked about it too, where it's like a tin roof, and where the groove is the deepest, that's where the rain will go. But this is such a good visual picture of exactly how the brain works. And you're right, like the things that we do constantly are going to be our go-to mechanism, right? But what if you could be mindful enough to take that detour? I like the word detour even. And if we could remind ourselves, time for a detour, what else could you do? What else is available to you? Yeah, that's a great metaphor. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so maybe even recognizing that this path might always be here for my whole life, but I don't have to use it. Right? It became very defined when I was 5 and 6 years old because I was safe when I ran to my room. It's no longer serving me. I don't need to go that route anymore. So that's pretty amazing.
Those are our parts, right? Those are our little 5-year-old part that wants to stay safe still as a 50-year-old woman. And so
that's right.
She just runs, but our wise self is the one that takes the detour and says,
the one who practices mindfulness.
Yeah. And that, I love that. That's good.
Yeah, I love it. It's so exciting. So what we want to do is create some techniques that will help us. I'm just moving my thing here because I can't read this thing. We want to create techniques so that we can practice mindfulness. Now, deep intentional breathing initiates the parasympathetic nervous system, and it signals to your body that it is safe, leading to a calming effect on your emotions. So, for example, we have a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system, and those two branches are actually attached to the autonomic nervous system. We don't need to know all this, but the sympathetic nervous system, you can think of the system is sympathetic to your state. So fight or flight, let's get out of here. Let me fight this off. That's what sympathy is for. But the parasympathetic state is where we are in the rest and digest. This is where we are calm. This is where we are connected to ourselves and others. And we feel good here. So when we practice breathing techniques and all the other ones I'm going to show you today, it's got a calming effect on your emotions, which makes you stay in the parasympathetic state a lot more often. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think we have time to go through these, but I want you to try practicing different breathing techniques. Mindfulness is awareness that arises when you're paying attention on purpose in the present moment to something without judgment. So breathing, that's a hard one for me to do. I often feel like I'm going to hyperventilate when I just focus on my breathing, but I like doing it with yoga because it helps me do a task. So when I integrate the two, movement and breathing, I'm way better off for me anyway. I can really feel that, hey, I'm breathing here. That's awesome. So I pay attention that way. But a very simple way, especially if you're at your desk working all day, whatever your job is, sit or lie comfortably, closing your eyes or softening them gently. Gazing down, listening to your breath and focusing on the sensations of the air moving through your nostrils and the rise and fall of your diaphragm. This can take 2 minutes. This is not something we have to do all day long, but it's just being able to listen and breathe through. One way that helps me focus on my breath when I'm doing this particular one is the nostril hairs that we have are so amazing. When we breathe in, the nostril hairs are actually protecting us, the air that's going through us from all the debris and dust that hits our nose. So it's so cool because now I'm focused on my nose because the nose hairs are doing their job. It's amazing. And so then I'm focusing on my breath because I'm very in tune to the present moment. And then, of course, having your hand on your belly and just feeling the rise and fall of your belly. How can I stay focused on that to feel that amazing air going through my lungs and filling everything up and then releasing it all? Like that is amazing. We don't pay attention to our breath because we breathe every 5 seconds or 1 second.
Yeah.
So when your mind wanders, just gently bring yourself back to your breathing, but don't judge. Just be like, yeah, I was just thinking of my grocery list, but that's okay. So there are obviously many breathing techniques. I encourage you to Google breathing techniques and find one that suits you. I think we talked about it a few months ago as well. I gave a few techniques there, but we know that breathing is important. For me, doing it through yoga is extremely helpful. So just trying to get to the next page here. So binaural beats is a new thing for me, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I just wanted to briefly chat about this. I learned this, what it is, why it's important. Binaural beats are an auditory illusion perceived when two slightly different frequencies are presented separately to each ear. For instance, if one ear receives a tone of like 300 hertz, like me, and the other ear receives a tone like 310, you can tell there's a difference. The perceived beat isn't an actual sound, but rather a result of the brain reconciling the difference between the two frequencies. So in this case, 10 hertz, right? You can tell. So your brain comes back. Binaural beats can aid in mindfulness by providing a focal point for attention during meditation. It serves as an auditory cue that helps individuals stay present and reduce your distractions in supporting mindfulness practices. Some studies show that potential benefits, there's lots of them that help me, I know that. but more research is needed to conclusively determine the efficacy in altering mental states or promoting specific cognitive effects. You can use it in relaxation, meditation, stress reduction, enhanced focus, and to aid in sleep. So I have this binaural beat that's beating right now, and I want to turn it up to see if you can hear it. Can you hear it?
No, I can't.
No?
No.
That's as loud as it goes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, too bad.
Maybe we can add that.
Anyway, yeah, maybe.
I
So
use it too when I'm working. There's so many free ones that you can get on YouTube, right? I think Huberman talks about setting it at 40 hertz, isn't it? I think 40, or maybe it's 400. I think it's 40 hertz for focus and attention. But yeah, then there's different hertz that you can use for relaxation and stress reduction. So just Google that or YouTube it, and you'll find ways to listen to that. So it's kind of neat.
yeah, and I definitely use it to enhance my focus, and I can tell when I drift off my computer, and then I hear a different tone, and I'm like, oh yeah, here I am. It's really cool.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I love
yeah.
So the body scan is another mindfulness exercise that you can do to help you. You can do it while you're at work, and it is helpful to do it if you can lie down. I often do this when I go to bed, and sometimes when my legs are still quite lively and very tense, maybe I am lying in bed, and I often start at my toes and go up to my head, and I'm usually asleep by the time I get to my shoulders. So it's pretty cool. But you can start at the top of your head as well, slowly moving through each part. What you want to do is purposefully acknowledge each part and pay attention on purpose to each part that you're going through. So here's my toes. I usually squeeze my toes and then release. There's my ankle. Okay, squeeze my ankle. There's my calf, squeeze my calf and let it go. And so you want to notice the tension and aches and pains that you have and stay with them for a moment to deliberately breathe into those parts. And it helps your body relax a lot more. Tracy, do you have anything about how you do it?
Yeah, so I have for all of you linked, I think it's this week, maybe it's next, but we're going to practice that non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. And there's one that is free that I have linked via Insight Timer. And it's exactly what Jackie says. You're basically scanning, you're noticing the tension, and then you're relaxing into full relaxation, that part. And I'm like you too. I get to my chest and then I often asleep. I know it says no sleep deep rest, but I always set a timer just in the event that I do fall asleep. And it's just a lovely way to just, again, notice the tension and release that tension from your body. So I do it almost every day, and I love it. It's my favorite time of the day. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, for sure. So lots to be practiced there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to be able to integrate mindfulness into our daily activities, because most of the time we're on the go. So we don't really have a lot of time set aside for sitting and focusing on nothing for a half an hour, but we can do it while we're living our lives as well. So practice mindfulness when you're eating. Slow down, dissect and describe, even open a discussion about where the food is harvested, who picked your fruit for you. Be thankful for the food we have. I have a mandarin orange here, a Christmas orange. I have to share the story. Obviously, we all do this. When Christmas oranges come into our store, I buy boxes of them. I love them. And I'm very focused, very mindful of this orange. It's just my favorite thing. You peel it. So you're using your fingers to feel the sensation of the peel, and it's very easy to peel. So that's enjoyable. And then, you can see it, you can smell it, you taste it, you can touch it. I don't know if you can hear it as much, but maybe if you put it up to your ear, whatever. But this is such a great experience to slow down. I love eating every morsel. I peel each segment off, and then I take the translucent stuff off, and then I eat one little pulp at a time, and it's just so delicious and it's amazing. So I'm very mindful of this activity because it's my favorite thing, and it helps me be in the present moment for a few minutes. And that's ultimately what we want to practice, hopefully not just around Christmas time, but like Trace, you and I, when we go for Indian food, Every sense that we have is totally tantalized here. We can see the visual art and the colors all over the restaurant. The smell is so incredible with like spicy and sweet and just flavors of yumminess. And then Indian food, you take naan bread and you use your fingers to dip into the sauces and everything. So you're feeling with your fingers the yumminess of it. And then of course, tasting it and smelling it it's so amazing. So, you need to just spend a little bit of time focusing on your food and slowing down. I'm not going to say you have to do this every single day, but when you have an opportunity, when something is amazing and delicious, because bologna sandwiches every day, yeah, that's not boring, right? But if we can try.
You better not be eating bologna sandwiches.
Nobody on this channel.
But my father does.
Well, but also pay attention when you're going for a walk, soak in your environment, take your earbuds out for just a minute. You might be listening to a really good podcast and that's great.
Yeah.
But focus on the environment for a minute and feel the ground beneath your feet. Breathe in the crisp, cool air. Listen to the sounds of the rustling leaves in the trees. You know, when I take my dog for a walk, I'll let her off leash and she just pounces like a gazelle through the leaves. And it's so adorable. And just hearing those leaves being, you know, stamped on, it's just so adorable. And so I'm living in the moment there just for a few minutes. And it's so lovely. So if you can focus on that when you are walking. I know it's getting crisp and cool up here. I don't know about everyone else, might be having some heat waves, but you know, try to soak in your environment for just a little bit. And of course, when you're doing those mundane chores, what does it feel like when the dish soap is on your hands or when you're vacuuming the lines in the carpet? Doesn't it look awesome? And it makes you feel good when you know, accomplished your chores.
Yeah.
So those are just a few things that you can do to integrate mindfulness into your daily activities. When you're driving, you know, try to be mindful of the road, of course, but maybe if you're at a stop sign or a red light, take an opportunity to, you know, think of something different at the red light instead of waiting for it to turn green. Just for
it's just, you know, there's so many moments that we could take to practice awareness and mindfulness. It really is just a matter of reminding ourselves to do that, because I think with our puppy dog brains, we just get into a place where we drive from A to B. We don't even recall how we got there. You know, we're just not great at living presently, but you've given such great tactical ways to get you into the now. Peeling a piece of fruit, right? Walking in the leaves, you know, smelling, looking. You shared this before, like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can taste, whatever, right? Anyway, I love that. And you're not going to be less stressed, you know, if you don't have these really great coping skills, and the skills take practice and time to build.
And so in the downtime, when you are doing well, practicing mindfulness is very helpful because it'll become automatic when the stress does hit. Not over time, it does, not maybe right this second, because when you're in the middle of stress, you will experience that stress and it'll be horrible and you'll suck and you'll be like, oh, I hate this. But I also want to remind myself of how am I going to get through this? And we've gotten through every single stress we've ever experienced. So we've obviously done something. We just want to be more mindful of how we do it so we don't have to go through it every single time.
Yeah.
So just remember that when you are practicing mindfulness, it's not about, oh, I should have practiced and I didn't. Oh, darn, and judging yourself, right? What it is, it's about reminding yourself why you're doing it. What are the benefits? Why do you practice mindfulness and how does it enhance your life? It's about encouraging yourself to take an opportunity to be mindful without judging. Focus on accepting the experience you're in the present moment, and acknowledge what your emotions are, what your physical body is going through, and how you're behaving, and see if you can change one of those 3 to help you through it. So just a big recap here of everything we've talked about today. It was a lot of stuff. Acknowledging your stress by how you respond, like I said, emotionally, physically, and behaviorally. Remember that river of integration is where we are present and adapt to situations by learning to be flexible with what arises in our experiences. So knowing that there might be twists and turns coming in my river of life that I'm traveling down, but look at this big lake that every single river on earth comes out into a lake or an ocean. Every river. So think of that. Like there's always going to be a calm, a wider space, a space where I can breathe a lot better than going through those rapids. And remember that chaos and rigidity lie on either side of the river, and seeking balance by practicing calm, the curiosity, awareness, living mindfully, being curious, being open to this situation. I don't like it, but I want to be open to what's going on. Neuroplasticity, remember where your attention goes, neural firing flows and neural connection grows. Breathing in through your nostrils and noticing the rise and fall of your belly, binaural beats, body scan, practicing mindfulness while moving, and not worrying about, I should have done this, should have done that. So hopefully this has given you some really practical tools, some great metaphors to follow, to engage in for how you practice mindfulness, what works for you. Any thoughts, Trace?
Yeah, that gives us, like you said, it gives us lots of practical takeaways, which are going to be useful in the season to come as we encounter in-laws or people that maybe, make you feel stressed out. We'll have this, of course, is recorded, so you can always come back here and screenshot some of those things or download some of the images or take a picture and remind yourself that these new neural pathways can be created. No, that was really good. I like that.
And so this is how you can contact us. I'm available to chat at any time, or if you have any questions about what we talked about today. Along with what we talked about today, Tracy, I have a little announcement.
Yes, this is exciting. And some of you may have seen this in our email newsletter on Thursday that Kim sends out, but Jackie's created this wonderful course on managing stress. And not only do you talk about some of the things that you alluded to today, but it's even a deeper dive into really understanding how to make room for that stress and how to, when it comes, how to work with it. Like, we're never going to get rid of it. Like you said, it's there. We have stressful things that come up. Now, what do I do and how can I work with it? So, do you have a little brief overview of the Managing Stress Guidebook?
No.
Well, what will we take away from it?
Well, this is the 10 essential tools to help us embrace the discomfort of our stress, help us express our stress, and help us understand it. So this is 10 tools that you can work on at your own pace. One thing that I suggest to do is doing one module per week, so that you can actually practice what you've learned throughout the one module. I have a video that goes with it, and then some writing, and then you write in your journal and things like that to help you discover the new ways of practicing something that might work for you. And then you can create that into a habit for you, something that's going to go with you moving forward, because it's up to you to make things suit you. I'm giving the tools, but you got to think of the things. Like, for me, the mandarin orange is everything, right? But for you, it might not be a Christmas orange. But and just acknowledging that we have stress in our lives, and I want to be able to manage that more, because I fly off the handle every time I get stressed out, and I don't like that. So I don't know how to change it, though. So this guidebook is going to help you with that.
Yeah, I love that you have a practical sort of like homework after most of the modules. And I think that's just so important that you actually grab pen to paper and, get working on the things that are actually going to help move you forward. I think that's really important. So it's a great course, and only $40. So there you go.
And you'll have it for life.
And you'll have it for life. Yeah, it's yours to keep forever. It's available on our website, movedaily.ca right now. You can download it anytime. Maybe that's going to be something that you do December, or maybe you'll save it for January and say, okay, January, new year, new me. And this is how I'm going to start being a little less stressed out. Jack, thanks so much. Again, you can work with Jackie one-on-one as a counselor. She's a counselor, and you can contact her through her website there or through our website. She's got a page over there as well. Thanks for joining us. Did anyone have any questions? Maybe I'll just give you 5 seconds again. You can unmute yourself. You can ask. Good, good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Jackie, for that session. That was great. And we'll see you all in the next coaching call. Bye.